Guys, so I'm gonna do another movie review. This time it's gonna be on Spider-Man Homecoming that just came out. I'm starting to really like doing these reviews just because it's something kind of quick, it's unscripted. I'm really busy these days with my stuff, so I don't have a lot of time to make serious videos. And also, I think what's going to be different about my reviews is I generally do reviews based on uh, things that relates to social political issues. That's generally when I watch a movie, I like to look at a lot of that. Like I'm not an expert on how it looks and things like that, but I generally like to see what the story, what the movie is trying to get across to the viewer. Like what is the message? What is the philosophy? What is the thing that you want to think about? Things like that. So I think that's not things that you will find very common in a lot of the other movie reviews that you'll be hearing. So, should you go see this movie if you're a superhero fan, especially if you're a Spider-Man fan? I definitely recommend you go see it. What I like about this movie is that it's very stripped down. I like it how nothing was overdone. I think this is something that's kind of new from the other Avengers movie, especially the other DC movie. It's focused so much on explosions, building being knocked down, something really big blowing up, and things like that. And at this point, it just got boring. I mean, think of the Transformers series. Yeah, like it's just it's boring now. I'm so sick and tired of seeing another planes falling into buildings, and we're gonna have another movie coming out called Geostorm, and there's like in a trailer a plane that dropped from the sky hitting buildings and things like that. It's just like, oh my god, just stop. And in this movie, Spider-Man Homecoming, there's a scene with a plane that was kind of going down, and Spider-Man was using its web to try to rein it so it won't crash into anything. And I was kind of praying, like, please, not another one with the plane crashing into buildings. And thankfully, they didn't do that. They got smart. So I like that. Another thing I really liked was, to be honest, I'm not a Spider-Man fan. I mean, out of all the superhero movies, like, not a really big fan. So if you're trying to say the holy trinity of the superheroes are Superman, Batman, and Spider-Man, Spider-Man's probably my least favorite. So with Superman, I have like some sort of familiarity, some sort of personal attachment to it, I guess. That's the best I can describe it, because I watched the Christopher Reeve version when I was like 9. Even though, just objectively speaking, I think out of these three, well, actually, Batman's not really a superhero, but we just count him as superhero anyways, right? Even though, compare these three to each other, so Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, I would say Superman is the worst superhero. I mean, actually, I think out of all the superheroes that I've seen, Superman is the worst superhero, like, ever. Just because he's too perfect, his power is seemingly limitless. I mean, how are you going to be able to get a good story out of that? It's almost impossible. So that's why, like, he's very shallow, and now that I watched the Christopher Reeve movies, like, I cannot get through any of them. It's just, but when I was a little kid, like, when I was, like, 9, I watched all of them, and I, just, like, I was, like, attached. So, I guess for Superman, I just have, like, a personal attachment to it. Batman is, like, the smartest of the three, and I like smart characters. That's what I generally like. I'm getting a little tired, after all the movies with, if you look at the movies from China, which I see a lot of, it's always about the bad guys are always really smart and the good guys are really dumb, and eventually, because of perseverance or some shit, like, the good guy wins. I'm just really sick of it. So I want to see a smart protagonist. Sorry, that's just my thing. So, because Batman is like the one that uses his brain the most, that's what I like. And especially since Christopher Nolan did a really good series, And unlike most people, The Dark Knight Rises is actually my favorite of the three to watch over and over again, just because the second one is a bit too dark. And I also don't like this one man show kind of thing. I also like multiple characters all contributing to something. And the third movie had that, and it also had really great characters. I really like, and I also really like surprises. So, so that's why like Batman's my favorite, and Superman is just because of my personal attachment to the character. Because I liked it when I was a child. I guess my second, and Spider-Man's just I never really had any feeling towards it. But I watched all of the movies, including the Andrew Garfield. Like I watched all the Tobey Maguire movie. I watched the Andrew Garfield movie, and just like when the Tobey Maguire movie came out, like this is how much like I'm not impressed by it. Like it was sold out in my hometown 3 weeks in a row or something. Like if you try to watch it on a Friday night that has already been the second or third week showing, you cannot get a seat. Like it's sold out. And I was just like, what the hell? I mean, who the frick cares? So I went in, I went to watch it, and I just wasn't impressed. Especially, I think it's because, I think it's because so much CGI was used. I think that was the problem. Like, Spider-Man using the spider web to fly around in the city that's kind of far apart, but somehow he's able to fly around in it, and it just seems like a video game to me. Like it's just not convincing. Yeah, like it's just one of those things like the first Hulk that Lian did. I don't know if you guys remember that one with Eric Bana. It's like that. It's too comic booky, and it's too much CGI video game. So the second one was good. I did enjoy the second one. But then I think after the superhero movie became just better and better, more in depth, more complex, just better storytelling overall. When I go back to watch it, I don't like it as nearly as much as before. Okay, so finally with this one, so I talked about like I like how it's stripped down. It's not like big explosive going all over. The second thing that I really liked about it was the special effects surrounding Spider-Man. So you can kind of tell. So I know that Tom Holland, he's a dancer, or he was a dancer. He also did gymnastics, and he can do a lot of like complicated backflips. And he's young, he's like 20 something, and he's very physical, and you can tell that in this movie. That's what I really like. Like a lot of the stunts were really done by him because they're not perfect. They're not like perfectly slick, and it's something that's obviously done by CGI. Like you can tell a lot of it was him doing it, which makes the movement, the spider movement, to be so much more natural. Like he's really like he when you look at him, he really gives you this feeling of a teensy cute spider that goes around. Like it's really like that. It's really cute almost. So like I like that, and also like he makes a lot of jokes and things like that, which apparently it's very faithful to the character. So those two things I like, and also as part of the storytelling that moves up, like they want to give you surprises, so you're gonna get like a big surprise in this movie, just like in the Marvel universe surrounding the Avengers. So yeah, I mean, it's like an Avenger movie, but it's very like a stripped down version. Okay, that being said, things I didn't like. So when I was watching this movie, with action movies, especially with fantasy movie, with sci-fi movie, I like things that move fast in a faster pace. I like that because I think at this point it's just that's what I go see these movies for. I want to be entertained. Okay, otherwise like it's just there are too many issues with these movies, but I want to see something like not eye candy in terms of special effects, but eye candy in terms of nice storytelling, nice surprises, smart characters, things like that. So for example, like I think this is how I may be different from a lot of people in terms of when they say about which comic book movie they like. For example, my favorite X-Men movie out of the recent three with X-Men First Class was actually the third one. I actually really liked the third Divergent movie. I actually really, like I said, The Dark Knight, the third is my favorite. Most people say it's the second one, but third one is my favorite. Just things like that. And what all of those movies have in common is that I like the atmosphere. I like the idea of constructing a new world, constructing a new set of rules. You go and discover because you don't know what it's like going into it. Also another like a franchise I actually really enjoyed was the Maze Runner. Like the first one, people in lukewarm. The second one, people bash. I actually really like the second one too, just because I like to not know what I'm expecting. So that's what I really like. I like discovering new worlds. I like the atmosphere. So another example would be I really like the recent Underworld movie where she goes into like this really far north and you don't know what's ahead, and they discover like a whole culture and things like that. So that's why I'm actually really excited about the new Black Panther movie, because it's like that, like constructing a new world that you don't know what's expected. This movie, it was just so boring. Just like, number one, just personally, I'm not a fan of portraying high school in a movie. I'm just not. Just because I personally just don't think any of them really does it justice. Any of them are anywhere close being realistic. And since high school was a really difficult time for me personally, I just have a personal, I just really don't like it. And the several issues that I can just point out is that, number one, this high school was just too good. I came out of a really good high school. It was like a blue ribbon high school, and it was nowhere near as good as this high school. And this was also the same problem I had with the Twilight movie portraying high school. Like, they always try to make high school look like it's so great, but it's not. And then they try to add some stereotypical things that kids experience, but it's not as nuanced as you think. So in high school, it's actually really boring. My high school also had a lot of like news and they try to do, but it's much cheesier than what's shown in the movie. I don't know, maybe that has changed because of improved technology, but I seriously doubt it, because I know like a lot of like funding for schools and things like have been cut. So this has been like a serious issue recently. Education just getting really worse and worse instead of better and better. But in this movie, like, they show classes where you as a college student wouldn't be able to be in touch with, like being able to play around electronics, being able to I don't even know what they're doing, but it looks like they can build stuff with like electronic stuff, things like that. I mean, maybe if you're an engineer student in like a prestigious college, you can do some hands-up stuff like that. I mean, my high school also had a robotics club, and that was so difficult to even set up. And when I had to take AP Physics, we try to do some electronic stuff, but it's just the resources are just so limited what you can do with it. So that I had a problem with, and the second thing was just. It was just so annoying. So they try to diversify the school, which is fine. I mean, now of course we have more and more diversity. It's just that the diversity has gone to the point where it's just about how people look, right? Like, it's not really anything about the reality of the diversity situation. So I'm not gonna talk about his two potential love interests. Well, one is the love interest, the other one's like potential love interest. They're both like half African Americans, like whatever. Okay, because that's minor, it doesn't matter. But the guy who likes to bully Peter Parker was portrayed by an Indian. Now, unless this guy is somehow a third generation Indian whose parents are completely westernized, air quote, whitewashed, that's just not something that happens. I mean, I came from a place that has like, half of the most populous minority are Indians. So it's like predominantly Chinese people and Indians, and they're like competing against each other. And the Chinese and Indian people are different in many ways. Like, Indian people seems to have this pressure to always need to show off, And also they because they have an advantage with language. Chinese people don't, but they brought up speaking English, so their language is so much better. But they have this, especially the men, but also the women too. They really have to stand out and give their opinions and show that they're really competent and things like that. And that's just like it seems to be a part of the culture. But bullying, no. Okay, that's just completely bullshit. I mean, the kid, I mean, his parents would basically tell him like, you have to work hard, you have to work hard, work hard. And if he sees like there's a white dude in the school, like I'm just gonna say white, meaning like indigenous American. Okay, indigenous American is just too many words. Just white. Okay, even though I just wanted to be clear that it's not about race or anything. I'm just trying to say like an American. If he sees like this white American dude who's smarter than he is, he's gonna try whatever he can to try to learn from him, to try to be better, or if he cannot be better, he's gonna try to be just as competent. It's just ridiculous to me to see like an Indian person bullying like a white person, bullying in indigenous American, you know what I'm saying. So no surprise that this character in the comic book was a white dude, of course, and they made him to be Indian. I'm guessing just for the sake of diversity, but it's just so weird. The principal is also an Asian, and he seems to be like one of those principals. I don't know. He may or may not be like a not understanding principal. It's just it's just one of those racial politics for the sake of racial politics. Like since I'm like pretty much the in-person regarding these minority groups, I know what it's like. And even though like it's not like I want to defend Indians just because they're Indians, I just know how they are. Like this is just so unrealistic, especially since he somehow gets other people to bully Peter Parker in somebody else's house. Like he says, oh, repeat after me, penis Parker, penis Parker. It's just like, no. No Indian person would ever do that. I mean, like, find me one. Okay, like, it's just, like, no, it doesn't happen. The second thing is that, and this is something that gets me, I know that they're trying to balance the character with Peter Parker. They're trying to say, oh, he's a average kid, and he has average kid problems, right? But the problem is he's not an average kid. He's a genius kid, okay? I mean, this school might be a gifted student school. Then I wouldn't know what it's like. I mean, it doesn't seem like it. I mean, he's probably going to be the valedictorian, Peter Parker. And let me just say it like this. High school is like a place where there's like a huge competition for social status. Okay, this is why like I really hated it, because when I was in high school, like I was like a beta bitch. Okay, but I see things pretty clearly. So it's like a competition for social status for both men and women. And if you're a woman, you just have to be beautiful and fashionable, I guess, and you'll be the most popular girl in school. And for the boys, they have to like prove themselves, right? This is like pretty much how it is in nature. I mean, men are valued for their work, for what they do, and women are valued for, I don't know, how they look, their fertility and things like that. Now, when you get to college, it all changes, just because college is really diverse in terms of the majors, in terms of departments, so it's hard to get gangs together, especially if you go to a good college, because like you're not even in touch with like the most people most of the day, because they're probably gonna take other classes and things like that. Whereas in high school, everybody's taking pretty much the same class, most of it, and pretty much everybody is going through the same pace, right? So that's why this competition for social status is just really heavy. For a guy, there are several ways to make you pretty much the top dog, so to speak. If you're like the top athlete, that would be one way to gain that social status. And this is like really straightforward. It's something that's probably, I would say, like the oldest, like for men, if you're physically capable, physically strong, then, you get a competition. That's why we have the Olympics, things like that, right? That's the first one. The second one would be if you are somebody who's like a top grade getter. So somebody like Peter Parker, pretty much. You get all A's. You get, you might get like awards, internship, whatever. You're really famous in school in terms of just like how competent you are as an academic student. That's one way. And then a third way would be you're an entertainer. Like you're very good at making people laugh and things like that. So those are the main three ways. Of course, like there's a fourth kind of thing. If you're just like gorgeous, if you're just like gorgeously handsome, like you're like Henry Cavill, then you can also gain a social status. However, if you're a guy and you have that, most likely you'll be either extrinsically or intrinsically motivated to get some of those other three things. Because if you're just good looking and people like hit on you, but you're like, ugh, eventually you're gonna lose that social status. So if you're really good looking, you're always gonna have a leg up. But for guys, it's really about like their competency in something. So either you're an entertainer, or you're a great academic student, or you're a top athlete. So those are the things that will give you that top position. So what I'm trying to say is Peter Parker would be one of the people who is least likely to be bullied. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm just saying that it's just so unlikely relative to other people. And if he does get bullied, usually it would be outside of school. It would be near impossible for him to get bullied in the school. Why? Because he's such a smart student. This is shown in the movie, that he's like some teacher's pet. Like there's just so many teachers who know that he's so smart, like he's so knowledgeable about almost everything, that he's kind of like a teacher's pet. Like this is suggested in the movie too. If you're a teacher's pet, your social status is like way up here, because teachers create these authoritarian figures, like authoritarian images, like I don't know what the word is, that the students follow. Okay, so the students follow. So for a teacher's pet person to get bullied, it's just so unlikely in a high school setting, because the teachers would would protect this person in one way or another. So it's just that I'm just telling you that Peter Parker would be somebody who's least likely to be bullied in high school. And I also happen to know this in firsthand experience, because I know, yes, if you're somebody who's really smart, you're kind of nerdy, just like Peter Parker. There was a really nerdy person like that. I mean, nowhere near as good looking as Tom Holland acting Peter Parker, who was our valedictorian. I don't know, a year before when I graduated. He went to MIT, right? And he just looks so nerdy. I mean, like his ears, even like he has these like monkey kind of ear, like very thin, completely like stereotypical nerd person. And he's of course there to study like engineering. And you can just tell from the way that he talks, from the way that he speaks, because he had to give a mock speech as the valedictorian. There's no way that he experienced bullying in his life. You can just tell like he's so confident, so commanding, like hello, I am your valedictorian. Like it's he's basically like the boss. You can kind of tell. So no. And also, like, another thing that just really bothers me, this is the same thing with all the movies portraying high school, just about, like, oh, this kid is really smart, doesn't even need to work, Starting with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that just gets me really freaking annoyed. It doesn't matter how smart you are, you have to work. I mean, Peter Parker in the movie is shown as a kid who goes, after he leaves school, every day he puts on his Spider-Man costume, and then he just start doing his Spider-Man thing, and then he comes home really late. I mean, so he doesn't do homework, or he somehow does homework really fast. I mean, no. The valedictorians, I mean, people really smart, they work their ass off. Like there's just no such thing as you as a smart person who don't need to work, and you can still like keep up with the class. I mean, in the movie, you're shown that he doesn't even pay attention to class, and he knows the answers. Bullshit. I'm sorry. It is bullshit. Okay? Just like drop this idea that somebody could be so smart that he doesn't need to work and just ace through all of his classes. If you're really smart, you're also likely to take the most difficult class, and that's going to keep up with your skill level too. So no, you have to study. Okay, and also this is high school, which means that if you don't do your homework, a lot of the grades are going to like be plummeted basically, because it's not like college where you ace the exams and you're fine. I mean, in high school, a lot of the points are from your homework, and your homework are given. Oh my god, like when I was in high school, I only took a total of five, or I don't remember how many AP classes I took, but the smart kids would take something like 11 or 10 or 11 AP classes. So for those of you who don't know, these are called the advanced placement courses, which is essentially college courses that are taught in high school, and you get like college points. And when you apply to colleges, they look at like how many AP classes you've taken. And these AP classes will give you homework that will grind you to 2 a.m. I'm not kidding, okay? Like, it was so much homework. Like, the first calculus homework I had was like 12 pages or some shit. Like, it's ridiculous. Okay, so even if Peter Parker is really smart, he was have to do those homework. And there was a guy in my calculus class, like he's super smart. He got a 5.0. I'm not kidding. Like 5.0 out of 4.0 because he took all AP classes, all 6 of them, and he got A's in all of them. And he also did some other stuff, like some sporty stuff. And you know what? Every single day you look at him, he's like, this is how he looks like, because like he doesn't sleep basically. This is how he was able to get all those A's, and he's super smart, you know. So but he's just working his ass off. So this is just another thing. It's just these are the things that just really annoys me. So yeah, I mean, tell me what you think of the movie. Overall, I enjoyed it with these minor things, but they really bothered me because like I said, I don't like movies regarding high schools. Because I just don't think they ever is ever realistic about what actually happens in high school. So I was a bit bored from the beginning of the movie, but eventually the movie built itself up pretty well. So overall, I thought it was a good movie, worth watching, and just I guess just wait until the next movie review.